Okay, so we're going to start off by looking at scales today. Now this is going to be an ongoing series on theory basics. So a lot of my students, my musician friends who aren't as well versed as I am, they'll ask me what's good to learn and, what do I need to know? And quite often they will ask me questions where they would need to be able to grasp some of this stuff, even at a basic level, just to be able to do what they want to do. So we're going to start with scales today, and we're going to work from there. So probably best to just sit and take some notes while you're listening to me talk. If you don't get anything, just go over it once, twice, however many times. And if you get really stuck, then just shoot me a comment and I'll be happy to, lay it out for you in simpler terms. Hopefully you won't need that though, because I've left a couple of little diagrams at the bottom there. If you just take a quick look, and you'll be able to go over them while I'm talking and just get everything laid out properly in your head. All right, so we're going to start by looking at the C major scale, as you can see if you check out this black bar along the top. So I like to think of a scale as sort of like a musical skeleton. Scales contain notes, they contain chords, and if you understand them, then you can read them for information on both of those things, which is what we're going to cover today. Now, I've chosen C major as all music teachers would because it is generally thought of as the most vanilla scale, contains no sharp notes and no flat notes. So this is what it sounds like on a piano. So what we're doing there is we're starting on the first note, or the root note of the scale, and we are playing through each of its 7 degrees through to the octave. Now, the octave is the same note as the root or the first, and it is located 8 notes above or below. So if we start on the root and we go C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, we're looping round to the beginning of the scale, except we're starting it again in the higher register, which is 8 notes above in this case. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play the C major scale again, but across 2 octaves, so you can see what I mean. So yeah, it's the same scale played twice over, but again in a higher register for this example. And that's what an octave is. It's starting again from a higher or lower point. 8 notes higher or lower than the point we began at. Now, moving on to degrees. A scale has 7 degrees, which is just a fancier way of saying a note, really. Now, they have 7 total, but it could be 8 if you include the octave. And the octave, I've specified it's the 8th degree here, but it can also count as the 1, since it's the same note as the root. That makes sense? So basically, when you heard the major scale being played in that example, what you're hearing is each of the 7 degrees of the scale being played in perfect sequence. Now, what gives the scale its sound, or its structure, if you want, are the order of tones and semitones which make it up. Now, if you take a look at the T's and S's between the numbers 1 to 7 along the bottom here, this is what I'm talking about. Now, a tone or a semitone, is the distance between 2 notes. So if we take a look at C and D, the note C and the note D are separated by 1 tone, whereas the notes E and the notes F are separated by 1 semitone. Now, if I wanted to go a semitone up from C, it would be C sharp. And we're not really going to deal with sharps and flats in this video at all, but I just need to touch on it for now to explain how it works. What you're doing is you're moving either a half tone or a whole tone, so a semitone or a tone, up from the note you've began on. And when you're counting them, just keep in mind that the tones and semitones are the gaps between the notes rather than the notes themselves. The gap in between 2 notes serves as 1 value in this case. We go tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone, and we're back to the C. Now, a major scale and a minor scale both have a certain order of tones to semitones. For the major scale, first off, it goes tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. So if you played a series of notes in that order, separated by those tones, you would be playing a major scale, if that makes sense. Now, a minor scale follows this order instead. Tone, semitone, tone, tone, semitone, tone, tone. And there's a handy little acronym you can use for breaking the two of them down. Now, a major scale goes 2 T's, 1 sugar, 3 T's, 1 sugar. That's T, T, S, T, 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 S. On the other hand, a minor scale goes T, sugar, T, T, sugar, T, T. That's T, S, T, T, S, T, T. Now, each degree of the scale serves as a root note for its own chord, and a scale contains 3 major chords that I've specified in red, 3 minor chords that I've specified in white, and 1 diminished chord that I've specified in blue. A scale also contains a relative major or minor scale, depending on whether it's major or minor. But that's a tad complex for now, so we're going to double back to that later if you just put a pin in it for me. Now, we're going to focus on the chords in a scale in part 2, but for now, what I'd like you to do is get this memorized. The order of chords in a major scale can be cycled through like this. It goes major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. So write that out for me. Major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. Now, the order for the minor is a little different. It goes minor, diminished, major, minor, minor, major, major, like that. And that brings us to relative major and minor scales, which I find is something that trips a lot of newcomers up to start with. So if you need to just, feel free to repeat this part once, twice, 3 times, however many, just to try to grasp what I'm saying. So each major scale shares its 7 notes with a minor scale, and vice versa. Each minor scale contains the same notes as a certain major scale. Now, in this case, C major is the relative major scale to A minor. Just think of it like the same notes, but in a different order. So if the C major scale goes C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, the A minor scale would go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, if that makes sense. Now I'm going to play both examples on piano, C major, then A minor, and you'll get a feel for how the order of the notes changes the sound of the scale. So C major first, followed by A minor. Now if I play the 2 together, you'll hear that they're in key with one another, like this. Just like I said, same notes, different order. Okay, so now I'm going to show you a little trick you can use to find the relative major or minor scales in relation to one another. Now, if you check out the top right corner, you'll see that I've put a little arrow over the A, and I've marked it the minor 6th. So if you want to find the relative minor scale to a major scale, you go up 6 notes. You begin on C and you go up to the 6th degree of the scale, which is A. So C, D, E, F, G, A. And we land on the 6th degree, which will give us the first note of our relative minor scale, which is A in this case. Now, if you're in the minor scale and you want to find your relative major, you begin on the A note and you go up to the 3rd degree of the A minor scale. And just ignore the octave here. When I teach people this, I see them counting up all the way and including the octave, so it gives them an extra note and messes up their count. Now, if you need to visualize it a bit better, then just check out where I've specified both scales on the bottom of the page, and it will help you just count along. So A, B, C, which means you arrive at the first note of C major, the relative major of A minor. Now, what this tells me is that basically if I'm in either C major or A minor, it essentially presents me with a list of the notes I'm able to use. So I'm free to use as many or as few notes from either scale as I want, all within the same key, essentially. And this is why understanding scales is a useful thing. If I understand the C major scale and its properties, I know what notes I can use, what chords I can use, and much more that we're going to be getting into from next lesson on. So yeah, I hope you learned a lot. Shoot me any comments if you've got any questions, and I will see you in part 2. Take it easy.